Let me say something that I should have said earlier, but I kind of got distracted because I wanted to connect the first and the second way as being very, very similar. But he says here, second way, to which everything gives the name of God. And then over here, he says, well, and everyone understands this to be God, with the argument from motion, and this argument from efficient cause. That seems to come way out of left field. Like, the argument does not ever get you to that. So many people, I think this is, maybe if you're skeptical about this, if you're an atheist, for example, this is kind of easy, low-hanging fruit here to like complain about this point, because, oh, he's saying this is God, but he hasn't proven that. Well, he's not trying to prove that that is the God of Trinitarian Christological theology of the Orthodox Christian faith. He's not trying to prove that, but it all depends on his audience, right? His audience for the Summa it's this massive volume. He says in the very beginning, the introductory chapter or question that we started with, like it'd be the prima pars question 1, that introductory portion. He says, this is for beginners in theology. This is who he's addressing to. I'm writing to begin. Of course, he didn't mean beginners like elementary school children. He meant somebody who's like first starting out their studies. Maybe they had a college degree equivalent like we would have now, but they were maybe studying to be priests. And so they were starting like graduate school in theology. So basically, so in other words, that meant beginners in theology. So that's who it's for. So he's writing to people who are going to become priests. This is who the audience he is intending. And so he doesn't have to really prove. It's almost like this wink, wink. Hey, guys, you know what I'm talking about, basically, at this point. I mean, so look, if his audience were different, then if his audience were all atheists, by all means, he probably would have said, well, I've got more work to do. I've got more premises for you in order to show why this is this specific God of this specific religion. But, you know, we don't get that here. It's also important to point out that where did I put it? I must have, there we go. Yeah, right here. With this, the Summa, this is not the only section where he talks about God's existence. In fact, it's not the only work. The Summa is not the only work that he talks about God's existence. And these are only kind of like an introductory survey. This is a intro level survey. This is why you often get it in Intro to Philosophy. You get this intro level, just dipping your toe into thinking about God's existence for the very first time. This is not the final word Aquinas has ever said on the existence of God, as you can see. He's got a lot more things to say. So don't think that this is the final say. In order to get his entire take on God's existence, why God must exist, gosh, you would have to read things like, I don't know, the De Veritate on truth. You would have to read the De Malo. You'd have to read maybe Disputed Questions of Virtue. There are all these works. Anybody who gives this criticism of Aquinas, for example, that says, these are bad arguments, and because he hasn't proven that the Christian God exists, that's low-hanging fruit. He never intended to give the entire definitive proof, the end-all be-all. He never come back to this issue whatsoever. Like, there are other resources on this, obviously in other philosophers, but especially even in Aquinas. This is not the only thing he's ever said on this. So that is important to remember. So when he's saying, go back to our argument here, it's necessary to admit first cause. All this argument, this single one right here, let's just think about the second way in isolation, this one in particular. All the second way seeks to establish is that there's a first cause. That's it. And then he kind of bumps, hey, wink, wink to my seminarians. We, of course, know what we're talking about here. This is God. Of course, if his audience were different, he would explain more about that. And he does elsewhere.